Bom dia a todas as pessoas presentes. Vamos dar início à nossa sessão. Sessão C5, Construção da Paz Comunitária através da Educação para a Liberdade Religiosa ou de Crença. Meu nome é Rafael, como se vê, e sou da ACT Alliance, ou ACT Alliance, que está presente em 152 países, tem 127 membros, e está aqui essa mesa junto com o Filip. E nós atuamos globalmente em cada país com temas de advocacy, educação para o desenvolvimento e formação para o desenvolvimento e ações em ajuda humanitária. Eu gostaria de acolher todas vocês e passo então a palavra para Filip, que vai fazer a saudação também em inglês.
Thank you very much. My name is Filip Pedersen. I work for CKU and the NORFORB FoRB learning platform with advocacy and networking. I'm so happy to see all of you here, and this event will be slightly different that you're used to from the previous events you have been to here at Interfaith 20 and the part gathering. It will be dynamic. You will have to talk, you will have to think, you will have to share your thoughts with others. So without any further ado, I will say that we will present the different presenters when they are up for their part of the program. And let's start with first with Katherine from Swedish Mission Council, who will be with us online, and she's also from the FoRB Learning Platform Consortium. Katherine, welcome to you, and let us see you on the screen, please. Can we have Katherine on the screen?
Hi, Filip, and hi, everybody in the room. As Filip said, my name's Katherine, and I'm from the FoRB Learning Platform, and our mission is to serve everyone engaged in promoting freedom of religion or belief by providing easy to contextualize courses and learning resources for you to adapt and use in all programs. Freedom of thought, conscience, religion, and belief provides each of us with the right to think for ourselves, to believe what we believe, to practice our beliefs, to belong to a community of shared belief, and to question and change beliefs, and to refuse to act against that which is central to our beliefs, so long as we don't violate other people's rights in the process. To think, believe, belong, practice, question, change, and refuse without fear of discrimination, punishment, or violence. Now, as with all human rights, freedom of religion or belief is an integral part of our daily lives. We either experience respect for the right or violations of it in all our daily interactions, within the family and with neighbours, on the bus, at work and at school, within faith communities, on the internet, and in our interactions with the public authorities. Many violations stem from government restrictions, but a huge number stem from a lack of acceptance of equal rights among the individuals, businesses, and bodies that make up our communities. And in many contexts, public opinion forms a barrier to legal reform on FoRB to fix the government restrictions. Without an understanding and acceptance of freedom of religion or belief as a human right at the community level, communities are vulnerable to political manipulation by forces of polarization, especially in the age of social media. And that risks destabilizing democracy. And we can see the consequences of this on every continent. Community level FoRB education, from the youngest ages to the oldest, is vital for community resilience to conflict and resilient democracies. This is both a critical and a long-term ongoing need. So how can we do it and do it sustainably? Well, our communities are characterized by a myriad of networks and fora, and to succeed sustainably, we need a myriad of networks and fora to integrate FoRB education within the framework of their existing ongoing long-term activities to teach FoRB, preach FoRB, train FoRB, talk FoRB, and do FoRB as an integral part of what they're already doing. So we need engaged schools, engaged faith communities, engaged social actors, women's networks, youth movements, businesses, influencers, public officials, and so on. Institutions, organizations, and movements for whom FoRB education is a given part of their ongoing agenda. Now, getting to that point of sustainability is a process that requires major investment. Investment in outreach and network building, in developing and testing methods, in developing learning resources, and not least, providing those learning resources in the languages that are spoken at the community level, and of course, training trainers to use them. Building an interconnected, agile movement that's connected up with local communities and that enables local actors to find the tools and the trainings they need and to share and learn from one another's experiences as they teach, preach, train, talk, and do FoRB. Now, building this is a monumental task, but we aren't starting from scratch. There are already methods and tools for community education developed, and many organizations are already engaged. FoRB networks are growing every year. In this session, we're going to be hearing from some people involved in this work at the community level. But before that, I'd like to tell you about one tried and tested tool for community FoRB education that you can use and that's being used across the globe, from Brazil to Sweden, from Nigeria to Sri Lanka. I'm going to share my screen now, and maybe someone can just confirm to me that you can see it. I hope so.
We can.
Great, thanks, Filip. So the Local Changemakers course is a set of downloadable course materials that provide everything you need to run up to 9 two-hour face-to-face workshops on freedom of religion or belief at the grassroots level. The materials are free to download and currently available in 8 languages for you to use, running the course in full or picking and choosing the exercises you like best to include in your own programs. We have many more language requests, of course, including Portuguese for both Brazil and Mozambique, but we need funding for that. So the course has 4 aims: to help communities recognize and appreciate diversity, to understand and value human rights, including FoRB, to identify FoRB problems in the community, and to find ways to tackle those problems together. Now, the course is designed for people who are concerned about problems in their local community and want to find ways to make a difference. It requires no previous knowledge, experience, or even acceptance of human rights from participants. And from experience, many participants have objections to human rights. It works in groups with mixed levels of literacy and is being used by youth, religious leaders, women's groups, journalists, and in contexts where FoRB is an extremely sensitive topic. The methodology of the course brings together 3 things which we think are critical: interfaith dialogue, peace building, and a human rights-based approach. And it uses interactive, experiential learning with exercises that actively draw upon participants' life experiences, contexts, and personal reflections. The course is structured in 2 parts. Now, part 1 focuses on developing attitudes and knowledge so that our hearts and our heads are ready to become FoRB change makers. Participants learn about and explore their attitudes towards freedom of religion or belief and reflect on their attitudes towards people whose identities differ from their own. And importantly, they also learn to conduct a community level freedom of religion or belief context analysis. In part 2, participants learn about a range of tactics that can be used to promote FoRB in the community, and are guided through a process of action planning for a community level problem they identify. Those sessions focus on skills and action. So, who can facilitate the course? Well, our aim has been to make the resources as easy to use as possible and as comprehensive as possible so that any competent facilitator can pick up the materials, spend a few days preparing, and run the course. And if awareness raising on FoRB is going to be scaled up and popularized, this is actually essential. You don't need to be knowledgeable about human rights or FoRB to facilitate the course. The facilitator's role isn't to be an expert, but to guide participants through a process in which they learn together. What the facilitator does need is sensitivity to the context, the ability to judge if some issues are too sensitive to discuss, and to adapt the process accordingly and handle group dynamics. The course was tested by 4 members of the Interfaith International Reference Group that helped us develop it in Jordan, Iraq, Nigeria, and Tanzania. And I'd like to share one very brief story from that. Hidayah Duda, who you can see on the right in this picture, ran the course with a group of Muslim and Christian young people on the Muslim majority island of Zanzibar in Tanzania. Now, one of her participants was a local girls' club leader. And at the end of the course, this youth leader told Hidayah that she wanted to run the course herself with her girls' club. And hearing that made us really happy because it tells us that the course is accessible and has the potential to be scaled up. So what's the course like? Well, I'd say it's fun and creative. Instead of introducing human rights and freedom of religion or belief primarily through talks and technical language, it uses games, group exercises, drawing, drama, discussions, and storytelling. For example, the session introducing FoRB starts with a story tale that we've written to help people reflect on whether they value the rights FoRB protects. It's about 2 imaginary communities affected by prejudice, discrimination, and tensions, and explores how 4 young people try to make a change in their community and how different parts of that community react to it. Based on the story, participants reflect on whether they think it's important for people in their community to have the freedom to think, believe, belong, practice, question, change, and refuse. Those 7 words I mentioned in my opening. And this way of introducing FoRB is really useful in contexts where it's dangerous to talk about human rights directly. And the story is actually one of the most appreciated parts of the course. In fact, a local organisation in the highlands of Sri Lanka is currently turning the story into community theatre as a way to enable religious leaders and communities to talk about the issues. Meanwhile, in Sweden, the course and story is being used to help ethnic Swedes and new Swedes think together about the role of religion in what's a very secular society. And I wonder what the potential might be in your context. In addition to the local Changemakers course, the FoRB Learning Platform has a facilitators toolkit packed with exercises for trainers, FoRB explainer films in over 20 languages, a facilitated training of the trainers course online, and on-demand courses on FoRB for All and FoRB and Gender. You can find all of our resources on the website, and they're free, open access, and open source, which means you can use, adapt, and republish in whatever format is helpful for you. We seek to support everyone engaged in FoRB issues, and I hope that we can connect and find synergies. So do stay in touch. Over to the moderators.
Thank you so much, Katherine. In order for us to just grasp a little bit what is this FoRB, what is this local changemaker about, Fred will introduce an exercise for us. And please start with introducing just a little bit about yourself.
I will move a bit. My name is Fred Nyabera. I work for Arigatou International, but I also engage in the FoRB learning platform that Katherine has shared as one of the facilitators. There's an online course on FoRB learning platform, and I'm one of the facilitators there. Now, Katherine has just talked about human rights, and in real life, human rights can be very remote and very mysterious to many people. And because of that lack of knowledge and appreciation, it's very easy to dismiss human rights. And we've come across that, especially people of faith. And I'm looking at one of them who works for South Sudan Council of Churches. Maybe you might find some of those barriers. And the good thing about what Katherine has shared regarding the Change Makers course is that it's got some exercises that demystify some of these concepts. And one of them that I'm going to share with you is called the Soup of Life. I don't know how many people like soup. Just raise up your hand. Maria Lucia, I'm sure you cook some soup. And there's some ingredients that you need for the soup. Which soup do you like?
I like many vegetables, zucchini, carrot.
And what are some of the ingredients?
Then I also put some, water. Okay.
Thank you very much. So just like in a soup, you need some ingredients. Soup of Life also has some ingredients. And this is a soup of life for a dignified life. For us to have dignified life, we need some ingredients. And we are going to cook the soup of life today. This is a pot of a dignified life. On your seats, you found some cards, and those are called human needs cards. And they're just a bit of some of the things that you might need to live a dignified and full life. Because if you don't have some of these human needs, then you will not have a dignified life. You'll find yourself suffering spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, and in many ways. There are many, but we just chose a few of them. They are all there on the screen. Look at them. I'll give you less than 1 minute. Look at the 4 of them and choose one of them that you think is very fundamental for you to live a full and dignified life. Which ingredient do you need? Maria Lucia talked about water. She needs water. That's very vital ingredient. You might need 4 of them, but just choose one for now. You're done? Everybody's done? Okay. All of them, we just picked up some. We normally have about 30 of them. And then we also have some blank cards whereby you can add your own ingredients that you will need to live a dignified life. Now, after choosing these ingredients for your dignified life, we want to see how they align with human rights. Because sometimes if people are not convicted that human rights are necessary, they start thinking about this is something for the UN, it's something for the governments, and it's not something for yourself. But then we want to see how human rights and human needs align. So I'll ask Katherine just to share with us some of the articles for the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, not all of them. These are some of the articles, and I want you to look at these articles and look at the one ingredient that you've chosen that you'll need to lead a dignified life and see which one aligns with what you've chosen. Again, half a minute, look at that. Have you identified which one aligns? Okay. I'd like a few of you just to share with me the need that you chose and which article aligns to it and why that need. Just one word or two. Anybody? Any refso?
I'll start. I need to be allowed to think for myself. Article 1, we are born free and equal and have our own thoughts and ideas. We should all be treated in the same way. It is because the freedom of thought and conscience is central to human integrity. It's the foundation for a democracy and for not only human integrity but also human freedom.
Anybody else from this side?
I need equality, no discrimination, and I think that resonates with Article 1. We are born free and equal and have our own thoughts and ideas. We should all be treated in the same way. Why it's important to me is because I am a woman a young woman, so that's double discrimination. And I think many other young women also face the same thing. And I think it's important that our voices are included in everything that we do.
I need to be allowed to think for myself. For me, I looked at Article 18, which obviously starts with the right to think for ourselves, but the last statement is why it's important. Everyone has the right to change their beliefs and religion if they want to. I have learned and matured a lot in my life, and I wouldn't want to be boxed into how I was thinking when I was young.
That's Article 18 that is directly relevant to freedom of religion or belief. I can take one or two. Okay, here you are.
I think mine resonates with Article 8, which is the law should protect a right and help when someone violates a right. I think this is a fundamental to everybody. We all have a right as a citizen in member state or wherever you find yourself, and the law should ensure that you are highly protected at any given point in time.
Thank you very much. Okay, there's another hand here, and let me know how much time I have.
You have 8 minutes.
Article 16, every grown-up has the right to marry and have a family if they want to. No one shall be forced to marry. Men and women have the same rights when they are married and when they are separated. Yeah, because before my grandmother in Brazil, all the marriages were arranged.
Okay, any other ingredient for oh, here, there's another hand here.
Me. I need protection when I'm treated wrongly. So it's in line with the Article 8. The laws should protect our rights and help when someone violates our rights. It's based on our context in Indonesia, and I myself am part of the religious group that is minority group as Christian in Indonesia. We have been experiencing many discriminations and sometimes also persecutions. So our law, or the constitution, already allows for the people to have their own religions and to also practice. But at the same time, the law enforcement and also access for the law protection also still remain our homework. So we still need to struggle for the protection for the law, for the minority group.
Yes, now that Filip has been so gracious and kind, he's given me more time, so that's good.
Thank you. So I choose the I need to have an identity, and I think that is important, and that matches with the Article 6 that says we all have the right to be recognized as a person by the law. I think that is the most important thing ever as a human being, because if you're not seen as human, you don't have any rights, so you don't have human basic rights. So yes, you need to be recognized as a human, as a person by the law.
Thank you very, very much. I like the connection, because what we're trying to do and what this exercise does, it normally takes time. This is just a teaser because of the time we have, but we normally have a traditional pot at the center with all these human needs around them, and then we come around that, and then we start cooking the soup. We pick up the needs, and there's a gallery where we have all the articles. We move around the room. It's very interactive. And by the time we're done, it's amazing that people start demystifying human rights and seeing how human rights are relevant to their daily lives and how human rights and human needs align to each other. So then, why is that important? It's important because we believe that in human rights education, there are 4 building blocks that are very important. The first one is in the area of attitudes and values. We need to see the change in attitudes and values. The conviction, 5 minutes is just enough. So if people have not shifted in their attitudes and values, and they start identifying rights and needs, then knowledge will not be enough. They might get the knowledge, but they'll not be convicted. They themselves will not engage, and they might not even carry through with the protection and also advancing the human rights. The second building block is the knowledge. We want to see that people are getting the right knowledge, and I think Katherine has been talking about that. And then the third one is skills. And some of the skills are also in what Katherine has shared. The program and the FoRB learning platforms also give skills, and the last one is action. And you'll be hearing about actions from this panelist here, or some of the things they've done because of the values they've adopted, because of the knowledge they've acquired, and because of the skills they've also acquired, and what they've done with that. That's the exercise. I'll give back to Filip, and if there are any questions regarding the exercise, you can also pick it up, Filip. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation and taking us through this great experience. Now we will get a little feeling of other experiences with working with FoRB education as a tool to peacemaking. So over to you, Graham.
Good afternoon. My name is Graham. I work at Faculdade UNIDA de Vitória in Espírito Santo, and I want to tell you about an experience we had in 2022 with the Changemakers course. I want to say thank you to the FoRB Learning Platform for the invitation to be here to share our story, and I also want to thank the G20 Interfaith Forum for the opportunity to share this story as well. I was trained in the Changemakers course by the FoRB Learning Platform. It was an inspirational moment in my life, actually. It was transformational as well. And after that training, we decided in the university to develop a training course which we could roll out across Brazil. If anyone here works in a university, you know that we are measured increasingly by metrics of academic research, but also social impact. And so we designed the course using the FoRB Changemakers course for social impact in Brazil. For those of you who are Brazilian, you'll also know that 2022 was a difficult year because it was an election, presidential election. So we delivered a course on the freedom of religion and belief within a human rights framework in a politically volatile environment. And there were some learning experiences which I have time afterwards I'll share with you. We managed to reach 14,000 people in every single state in Brazil with our training course. I think that's the first thing we would say. So we took elements of the Changemaker course, we translated it into Portuguese, including this exercise which Fred has just done with us, and we used it in all of the states in Brazil for training people. When we were working in Brazil, we worked with many different groups, organizations, to ensure we had a reach into the full population in Brazil, because Brazil is a very segregated society. So we worked with public authorities in the area of human rights, of education, of social services. We worked with federal and state government departments. We worked with public and private universities. We worked with civil society organizations. We worked with the Bar Association here in Brazil, which is a group of legal lawyers. We also worked with some religious groups, mainly churches, Pentecostal, evangelical, in the peripheries of Brazilian cities and in the Amazon rainforest. What we did was after training people in the course, we asked them to send to us a report of one intervention they had made within a human rights framework in the area of freedom of religion and belief. And we asked them to send to us that intervention either in written format, or in a photographic format, or in a video format. And we managed to gather more than 500 documented examples of interventions from those 14,000 people all over Brazil, based on the framework offered by the FoRB learning platform. We were obviously engaging in a Brazilian context that was very political, very divided, and where human rights and the human rights framework is a contested framework still today in Brazil. There are constituencies in Brazil who will advocate that human rights agendas are leftist agendas. There are right-wing groups that are appropriating particularly the freedom of religion and belief to contest other human rights. And all of this manifested itself in our course, particularly through the SOUP exercise, which proved, I'm trained in theology, so I'm going to use a theological word. This exercise was revelatory in some of the groups that we did and worked with, because people are allowed to identify needs that are important to them, and the exercise allows them to insert it within one of the 30 articles of the human rights framework. But equally, as Fred says, people are allowed to add their own needs that might not be contemplated, and it generates discussion within the human rights framework. And what we discovered in our course was there wasn't a single need that someone identified as an extra need that didn't actually fit within the human rights framework. And that opened conversations and understandings amongst participants. So I think that's all I want to say at this stage for reasons of time. I'm happy to take any questions about that. I hope it's clear what I've said, and I hope that my Scottish English can be understood.
Thank you very much. In order for us to listen to some more experiences, I will hand over the word to you, Liliya.
Thank you so much, Filip. Well, now you have to listen to a Russian English, which is even better challenge. But I hope I can do a good job. Let me start with a personal story. And as I said, originally from Russia, from the central Russia, which from Tatarstan and Kazan, which is a very interesting region in Russia, because it's a region where Muslim majority lives. So it's actually 50-50 where ethnic Orthodox Russians and Muslim Tatars live side by side, despite any kind of cultural, religious, linguistic differences. So for me, from the young age, FoRB and just existing in two religions, two cultures was such a natural thing. So when I grew up, as soon as I was growing up, I realized that it's not as simple all around the world. And I also learned about very tragic history in Russia, how there were forceful, conversion into Christianity of the people of Tatars, of my region, but how resilient the nation was, and how resilient the ethnicity that keeps surviving and thriving today. And there is always an answer to any kind of a difficult history. So I'm here representing a common word among the youth, ACWAY. It's a youth organization that I started with a personal story because the vision is so close to what I believe in coexistence of and religious harmony among people, especially driven by youth. At ACWAY, we have a twofold approach. One, we recognize that it's vitally important to provide inclusive and respectful educational spaces for religious practices and beliefs. We achieve this through different ways. One of them, we organize annual forums for young people, where we bring young people from all around the world to one place where they have chance to engage in discussions. Those are leaders who lead some sort of activities in their respective communities. So very grassroots, localized approach. The second is the second strategy that we're working on is to support these young leaders in the policymaking forums as IF20. We believe that's also part of it. But so what we're doing on our interfaith forums, I think it's very unique. The model is unique in a sense that we bring them from their respective communities. They come to a joint forum where they share the best practices, and something that works in India might work in Australia, something that works in the United States might work in Brazil, and that's really helpful. Then they go back to their communities, and after the forum they have the conviction to come back and to deliver a particular activity that is related to FoRB education. I can provide you some of the examples in different regions just to show you how broad the scope is and how various and the scope of activities are. So in Asia, actually in Myanmar, several years ago, there was an interreligious dialogue program among the youth led by one of our fellows, which was a major success. that included interreligious dialogue, FoRB education principles, some of the really interesting exercises that were shared today as well. We used similar sort of exercises, and I'm very excited actually to learn more about the FoRB learning platform and implement it in our forums. In Africa, there was an event that explored the social media importance for the development of democracy. So there's this intersectionality. The event was in Ethiopia, also engaged 70 youth from different sub-cities in Addis Ababa and various religious and cultural communities. In North America, one of our fellows delivered wonderful activities that called Interfaith Poetry Jam, so that takes poetry and FoRB blends and combines it together. In South America, in Mexico, there was also an event bringing together 300 high school students of different beliefs, including atheists, Catholics, non-religious individuals, to combat indifferences and ignorance about religious diversity and interfaith work. In Europe, we held an interfaith workshop in Germany several years ago. One of our fellows that brought together Muslim, Jewish, and Christian young people for a youth camp that was focused on arts and interfaith. So I'm reading you this list and giving you all these examples because to show you how diverse the scope of the activities are and how intersectional they are. In Australia, one of the fellows held an interfaith iftar that brought together women from various religious backgrounds for an iftar to share the Muslim tradition. We still need to break into Antarctica, but I think that's the goal for the next decade. That's the continent we didn't cover, but we have a lot of work to do. Let me just end with the call to action. I think in the world where 1/3 of the population are young people or people under 35 years old, and I would like to second my colleague's comment, you know, the support for young people is incredibly important, and their activism in FoRB is incredibly important because the initiatives that they come up with are creative, innovative, and they prove to be effective. So, and I'm happy to answer any questions that relate to the organization and the work we're doing. And yes, thank you.
Thank you so much. And over to another young at heart, I might say, Fred Nyabera from Arigatou.
Thank you very much, Filip. Within Arigatou International, we have what we call Regional Peace Program in Eastern Africa. And for the last 4 years, with different partners, we've been focusing on FoRB to promote social cohesion within the region. And the focus has been on faith leaders and the youth. And I just want to share 4 things that we've learned, some of the best practices and lessons learned very quickly. One is the centrality and the importance of faith actors as bridge builders for peace and social cohesion. I don't want to belabor this, but we know that faith leaders, especially in that region, are seen as moral duty bearers, and they are respected, they've got some authority, and they can work as bridge builders. And therefore, we realize that if we could build their capacity in conflict resolution, human rights, and FoRB, then this would further empower them. And this training has enabled the faith leaders to mediate more effectively, prevent violence, and advocate for FoRB, ensuring the rights of all religious groups and also enhance the peaceful coexistence. So that's just the fact that we chose the right target group, and the fact that they already engaged in peace building, but the FoRB element was somehow new to them, as much as they were doing it, but not packaged in the way that we have introduced it. The second thing that we've learned is that it's crucial to develop FoRB educational tools that are culturally and religiously sensitive and relevant to the context. Because when communities can connect to the materials, they are more likely to engage deeply with the principles of FoRB, respect, and human dignity. And this engagement strengthens social cohesion and peace. So we've tried to align FoRB using exercises like the one we've done today that demystify some of these principles, but also sensitive to the religious principles and the cultural principles without devaluing human rights principles at the same time. Let me just move on. The third thing that we've learned is that community-led FoRB education is a crucial driver of inclusion and empowerment. When we talk about the communities that we are engaging with, these are right holders, and they themselves need to empower themselves and to take the ownership of the FoRB learning and also the peace building exercises by themselves. So the TOT that I mentioned is very important, that we engage with the trainers of trainers so that they go back and carry out the training themselves. I just finished a FoRB learning exercise in Uganda focusing on the Sudanese leaders. And we did not only, it was a TOT, but one thing we've also done is jointly come up with a manual that is relevant for them to go back and implement when they get back to Sudan. So the last thing that, the last lesson is that engaging youth in FoRB education and advocacy is vital for sustainability for peace building efforts. Just what my colleagues have been saying. The youth are social change makers. Kenya is an example whereby the Gen Zs have led a very strong revolution. And if we give them some of these principles, as you said, you took some things for granted, then they are able to build some of these things in their activism and the social change that is there, and we are also investing in the next generation. Two recommendations as I finish to the government. I think the government needs to prioritize and instrumentalize FoRB education for sustainable peace building in their, in their laws and also in their policies, and also put in some finances. The third thing is, the next thing for the community leaders is an inclusive leadership within the community, so that when you think about that, it's not only one particular faith, but all the faiths are involved as much as possible, inclusivity. The bottom-up approach is important, and the government needs to strengthen that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fred. Over to you, Rafael.
Obrigado a todos. Eu vou falar em português. A nossa dinâmica agora inclui uma entrevista com os recentes contribuidores. Aqui eu tenho algumas anotações e gostaria que Ed, Liliya e Graham pudessem nos compartilhar em 2 minutos. Minha sugestão é que vocês gastem, por favor, 1 minuto para me responder quais são as propostas para governos e pessoas, líderes comunitárias, que vocês anotaram. Eu percebi que no tempo de 5 minutos vocês não tiveram essa oportunidade de desenvolver mais isso. Então eu gostaria de que a primeira pergunta, para que vocês, cada um possa em 1 minuto, acrescentar isso. Graham, que tal? Quais são as propostas? Questões, pelo menos.
Obrigado pela pergunta, Rafael. Eu vou falar em inglês, tá?
Okay.
So one of our experiences, because we worked with many different groups, including government agencies and departments during the year cycle, was we had a 12-month project. That's a very short time for governments to be able to plan and respond adequately to integrate the FoRB approach to their own work. So we learned, if you're going to negotiate and have the government, different agencies and departments adopt the FoRB approach, they need more time. The thing that was very positive engaging with the governments is that, again, people in Brazil will know this, that anyone as a civil servant can go on a day training course and it counts as work, and so you can reach huge amounts of the population at different levels of their career. And so we found that as a key and important part for our work of needing a longer course, longer lead-in time to engage the government more fully, but once the government's on board, recognising that that's the easiest way to reach the largest part of the population.
Thank you, Graham. I'll stay in English because it's so easy for me. The same question for you, Liliya. 1 minute, please. You have more time before. After, please.
The question was on challenges.
Challenges for governmental
right.
and leadership community people.
My answer would be, with ACWAY, we believe that there is a reason why we believe in engaging grassroots and community leaders, because those are the ones who know the context best. There is no one-fit solution for all, and we truly believe in that. Those young leaders are the ones who are to make judgments what would work best in their respective community. And I think that was one of the challenges that, not challenges, but one of the lessons learned that we had. Another thing is, it's very helpful to have a system or some sort of framework around which to organize the activism, and that was also some of the challenges that we met, and we found a solution for that. The solution was the Interfaith Development Goals. It was an initiative led by fellows in one of the forums. Basically, Interfaith Development Goals, I will present more about it during the open forum today in the evening, so you're very welcome to come. But it addresses the fact that it was the FoRB was not covered in SDGs. So all the activities that fellows are delivering, there are 10 interfaith development goals that they're created. So all of the activities are tied to those, which really helps to systematize everything.
Thank you. Fred, please. Same question.
I believe I understand the challenges
Please,
and the response.
Talk in the microphone. Because
okay. I believe it's some of the challenges with the government is just trying to politicize the whole process so that they hijack the process of FoRB education and promotion for their own political gain. And I think that's a challenge that is real. But the other thing, how to mitigate that sometimes is what I shared earlier on, that bottom up can be important so that the right holders themselves are equipped to be able to respond and claim their own rights within the space that is created.
Thank you, Fred. You have 5 minutes more. And I ask you another question about your work. I'll try in Portuguese, please. O trabalho de vocês em nível comunitário deve ter enfrentado bastante desafios, e um que parece ser global é a presença e o crescimento dos fundamentalismos, no plural. Como é que isso tem impactado o trabalho? Eu gostaria que vocês gastassem novamente 1 minuto, porque nós não temos tanto, para... Como é que isso aparece? Em fake news, ou no aceitação do diálogo, ou não aceitação do diálogo? Essa é a questão.
So one of the challenges we faced was when we were working in poor urban communities through Pentecostal churches, there was huge ignorance and disinformation circulating about what human rights were, which is why the SOUP exercise was so illuminating, because it allowed people not to talk about human rights first, talk about their own needs, about their own wants, about their own desires, and from there lead into a framework of human rights. And it also, as I said, opened the space that people could openly contest a human rights framework by suggesting other needs, but then when we moved into the conversation to find those needs were already contemplated within the human rights framework. So I think the ignorance and disinformation was present. The fact that we worked with fundamentalist and conservative communities showed they're also wanting to engage with the framework in some way.
Thank you. Sorry, because we have just 1 minute for one.
I will be very short. We do believe young people as drivers, as the main producers and consumers of the social media platform, information, a lot of hate speech is going around, and they are one of the actors for the solutions as well. The only way to address this is to equip them with the right solutions and to let them to become active in the space that they're better suited for.
Thank you. Brad, 1 minute more.
Yeah, when you talk about hate speech, it's real, and it comes from the pulpits of the faith actors that we work with, and they normally misuse texts, their faith texts, to spread hate speech. So one way to respond to this has been to identify champions, to come up with alternative narratives or counter narratives.
Thank you, everybody. Obrigado a todos vocês. Nós temos mais um tempo. Eu acredito que esses temas vão poder ser melhor aprofundados no debate com o público, mas é interessante marcarmos os desafios para governos e o desafio em termos de base, o trabalho de base, grassroots. Graças. Por favor, Filip, pode conduzir o restante do trabalho.
Thank you very much, and we might have some more time during discussion, question and answer, where we can pick up on some of these issues as well. The next thing we would like to is to introduce you to yet another exercise to give you a feeling of what can this local change makers course help you with. And Katherine will have an introduction to that. Please, Katherine.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Good. Before our question and answers, we'd like to give you a quick taster of another exercise from the Local Changemakers course. So it's time to get involved again. Now, a key skill that people need in communities is the ability to recognize and analyze violations of freedom of religion or belief in the community. Who in our community is affected by what kind of problems, in what kind of situations? And to enable communities to do this, the course includes a context analysis exercise called a FoRB map of my town. Now, in the exercise, the participants gather around a very big flip chart drawing of their area with about 10 different places on it. Shops, a workplace, a government office, a bus, places where people might experience violations of FoRB. And they're also presented with a list of characters. Now, usually there's more like about 15 different characters, but I've just chosen 5 here. And what you can see on the screen here is a generic list, a minority girl attending a state school, but the facilitator tailors the list in advance so that it's context specific. So in India, the first character might be a Muslim girl attending a state school, and the second might be a Baha'i leader, for example. So it's really easy to contextualize. In the exercise, this is a plenary brainstorming, and each participant picks one character from the list and thinks about and talks about what problems they think that character might face in different places on the map. That could be street harassment, discrimination, hate speech, problems in the family, problems in the faith community. And one by one, participants share their ideas, the character they've chosen, and their ideas about what problems this character would face in which places on the map. And the problems are all written up on the map, creating a map of FoRB violations or problems in their area as experienced by all different kinds of people in the community. So we're going to take a little quick try at doing this exercise now, not in full, of course, but just a taster. So I'd like each of you to please pick one of the characters on the list and imagine in your context, who might this be? So think of a character who would face 4 problems in daily life somewhere. And I'll give you just like 30 seconds to pick a character. Okay, I hope everyone's picked a character now. So Now I'd like you to imagine the daily life of that character that you've picked. What 4 problems do they meet? In which places? Imagine them moving around on the map, visiting different places, going to work, shopping in the market square, attending school, or going to an office, to government office to register something, a police station to register a crime, public transport, places of worship. Where does your character, the person you've chosen, face 4 problems as they go about their daily tasks? I'd like you just to spend 2 minutes thinking about that, and then Filip's going to ask a few people in the room to share what character they picked, who that is in their context, and where on the map that character might face a problem. So you just got a couple of minutes to just think now.
And those of you who are ready to come up with the character that you were thinking of and the place on the town map here with some of the issues, please raise your hand, and you can be the first to just share your thoughts on that. If we can go back as well to the 5 characters, so those people who weren't choosing one there could do so as well. So let's see the slide with the five characters, and then back again. So we have a minority girl, we have a religious leaders from a minority, an interfaith couple, a convert from a majority religion to a minority religion, and a majority woman whose behavior goes against the cultural norm in society. And then please take the slide with the town again. And let's hear from one of you that identified one of those characters, where one of these characters will encounter some issues, problems, challenges. Please raise your hand, or I will just come and ask you. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mônica Nogueira from São Paulo, Brazil. I picked a couple. So the couple has problems wherever they go. They have problems with different clothes. They have problems with different thoughts and beliefs. They had problems in the school reunion. So I think they have a lot to work for.
For us who doesn't know Brazil, can you explain more about the issues that they will encounter at the different places?
Brazilians are curious. They ask questions. They point fingers. I think in the behavior of a child, this is okay, but when it gets to a point of a teenager on, kinds of people are not educated in the issues. So these subjects are not well discussed at home, or they don't travel so much, so the distances are big. So people don't see people with different languages or different beliefs. So I think it's part of the difficulties we have here.
Wonderful, thank you very much. And a question right here as well, or comment, please.
Bom dia a todos, me chamo Evaldo Dias, eu represento a Rede Ecumênica e Interreligiosa Amazonizar, lá de Manaus, Amazonas. Bom, eu escolheria o líder religioso que trabalha com minorias. Por quê? A gente vive várias situações lá na Amazônia sobre perseguição religiosas, e principalmente aquelas que são minorias, as igrejas pequenas, né? A gente já teve situações onde encontramos freiras que foram ameaçadas de morte só por causa de falou uma palavrinha, sustentabilidade. Aí os fazendeiros mandaram recados, né? Já ocorreu também, inclusive, dentro da igreja que eu participo, sou anglicano, Igreja Anglicana do Brasil, Diocese da Amazônia, onde apoiamos lideranças indígenas e mandaram gente também ameaçar, ameaça de morte, né? Fora a questão do perseguição políticas, né? Quando a gente fala em favor das minorias, né? Então, enquanto rede, a gente também cria mecanismos. Criamos também em 2019 a primeira cartilha na Amazônia, que é sobre intolerância religiosa, que vem a ensinar para criança, jovens, adultos e comunidades sobre como é que a gente pode estar combatendo as intolerâncias, né? Então eu deixo um pouquinho da partilha aqui com vocês, tá bom?
Thank you very much for sharing. Do we have anybody else who have chosen a character and a place in the town where they will experience discrimination or other problems?
Yes, I chose the convert from a majority religion to minority. And actually, the first thought that I went is not on the map, it's social media. A lot of mischaracterization, misrepresentation about an individual from strangers worldwide of what that person's done without ever asking the individual. And then they would have problems possibly in the church they left. We hope that's not the case, but it can happen, or stereotyping. But it's conferences like this where we actually sit down and listen to the person instead of sources that are incorrect.
Thank you very much. And another one here?
Hi, my name is Anna. I'm from the International Center for Dialogue. I also chose the same character, but I was thinking that in addition to maybe people from the town thinking that this person maybe is confused with their identity, or there's a mistrust level, right, from the majority group to this person who has now gone into the minority, perhaps going into the court system as well, that can be a judge of character, let's say, when you leave a majority group into a minority. So just wanted to add that as well.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I think this is the last one we could make this time. Oh, no, we can make this one if you're quick. Please. No? And that will be just in 1.5 minutes, I think. Thank you all for sharing your thoughts on this exercise. You can see by having done this in a local community, you will suddenly start to paint a picture of your town where different minorities or different people from majority thinking just slightly different than the rest of the majority, or the preacher will preach in the church, or the imam in the mosque. They will encounter within their city. It can be issues of access to marketplace and so on and so forth. So thank you very much for sharing that. Now we will have just a very short period where you can ask some questions. So if you have questions either to the panel or to Katherine from the FoRB Learning Platform, please raise your hands. We will take 2 or 3 questions, and then we will have a round with the panel, and then go as long as we can. Let's start.
All right, I'm from South Africa, and with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We do a lot of, or we partner a lot with partners on the ground to promote religious freedom and interfaith harmony in Southern Africa. And one of the things that we are noticing as we are out there, and I'm gonna need your advice, please, for you to share from your experience, is that as we talk to governments, it's clear to them that there are issues around commercialization of churches. There's also issues around money laundering. There's issues around human trafficking that are coming with religion. And so as we are having these conversations, it's a very kind of difficult topic, because for the most part, the governments want to introduce some laws to control and to restrict certain things from happening. So I just wanted to hear from you, what is your experience around that, and what have you seen works, and what advice do you have for someone who deals with these kind of things all the time? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And in order to help ourselves and the rest of the group, please make the questions or remarks very, very short.
Okay, couple of questions. I think for either Katherine or Fred. the cause that they share, is it free? And how can one access the cause? At the end of the course, that is a certificate given to the participant. And also this one specifically for Fred, you were saying to prioritize FoRB education, inclusive leadership. I think another suggestion to be to include it in the school curriculum at a very tender age, so they start to have a knowledge about it as they go on in life.
Yes, it's free. Here is your copy. And we will have the last question, and then we will have comments from the panel as well.
Do the rights that you talk about change? I know you go to the Human Rights Declaration, but it seems like every day somebody says, I have a right to, and then they declare something. So how do you deal with that and when you're making the soup?
Okay, thank you very much. That was 3 questions. In the panel, you will have an opportunity to really short, in 1 minute, to reply to the questions, either or take all of them with your, yeah. Anyone? Rafael? Nope.
So I can reply very quickly to the first question and the last question. So in Brazil, because of the laïcité model, there's no clear institutional pathway to resolve these issues in religion. It makes it very difficult in Brazil when these questions are placed before the government to have adequate strategies institutionally to resolve the question, and that plays out in civil society and the institutions. In terms of the soup, the thing that came up strongest for us when we were in the western region of Brazil was the question of the family. People were feeling the family was under threat, and this manifested itself in different ways. But in the second phase of the soup exercise, we're able to see that the question of the right to a family is protected in different ways under different articles, and it opened the conversation out. So the language used is different, but it still fits within the Universal Declaration of Human Rights framework.
Just a short one, and I think to the third one, I mean, we're all aware about this anti-universalist movement against the human rights, all these cultural relativism movements that are happening in major countries this world, including mine. I do believe human rights are universal, but we believe that they play out differently in different contexts, as I said. And when you approach it carefully and you, at least in our forums, we try to be very careful, bringing the universal language, but then also being careful about think about how you can apply these in your own context. So in certain way, giving a freedom in interpreting what the Universal Human Rights Declaration, for example, is saying.
And Fred, you have some questions directly where you will mention, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the first one, some of this Katherine, I'm sure, will also mention and maybe give a comment. Free, yes, and there's a process. Katherine will talk a little bit about that, but also having this within the schools, curriculum, already this discussion between FoRB Learning Platform and Arigatou International, and my colleague Maria Lucia is here, will be talking about learning to live together, very briefly, so there's thinking along those lines. The last one is about how do you balance South African question, which is everywhere, even in Kenya. Within the FoRB process and education and human rights, there are limitations. But these limitations have rules. They're not just open, so the government cannot just come and limit. And very quickly, I'll just mention them. One is the limitation grounded in the law. The government cannot just come and say that, okay, we are going to limit this. Is it grounded in the law? Two is the limitation necessary to protect one of the following: public safety, public order, public health, public moral, and basic human rights and freedom of others. Very important. And then is limitation proportional? And then is the limitation non-discriminatory? It should not discriminate against the others. So there are a set of limitations, and that's a talk on its own. Otherwise, the other things, I believe Katherine can also have a word.
That was your cue, Katherine.
Okay, thanks very much, Philip. I think you can probably see that I have shared both the address to the course there. I hope you can see me changing my screen here. but also, yeah, you can see on the web page, this is where you get to if you write in that link, the Local Changemakers course. There's a short video with some people who've used it talking.
It seems like we are gone to the slide with the plenary exercise of the soup of life and not the web page yet.
Okay.
While you're finding that, I will give a little gift to all the participants here with the Local Changemakers course. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so if you go to the link, there's a film you can watch, some information about the course, and if you keep scrolling down, you can click here to access the course materials and how to find all the different language versions. So if we click here to find all the course materials, well, there's a facilitator's guide, which is the book you're getting in your hand. So I maybe don't need to share what that looks like. But there's also, for each session, you can find that there is accompanying resources. There's PowerPoint presentations, the human needs cards, which Fred used earlier, and the Human Rights Gallery posters, for example, for session 1. And for each of the sessions, there's all of these resources that go with the session to help you run it easily. Now, is it free to use? Yes. You don't need any permissions or anything to use the course, but we would love to know about what you're doing with it and how it goes, what's worked well, what hasn't, and what kind of impacts you're seeing. What kind of outcomes, what kind of action plans course participants putting into place. So it's really great if you get in touch with us and let us know about what you're doing. If, however, you want to translate the course, it would be great for this course, for example, to be available in Portuguese, to be able to be used by any organization in Brazil. If your organization has the resources to help making that a reality, so we can publish it, then do get in touch with us so that we can make it accessible to everybody in Portuguese and any other languages. For example, we would love to have Swahili. We don't currently have any African languages. We have English and French, but not any African languages. Yes, if anybody has any further questions, then you can always contact me. I put my email address there.
We need a microphone on here.
Just to tell Katherine that maybe we'll have an organized group willing to do it in Portuguese.
Thank you, that sounds really good. Please stay in touch. Any other last questions, or else we will have the last round of comments from the panel. We have one here.
My name is Maria Lucia Uribe, and I work with Arigatou International. And as Fred just mentioned, so we have been in discussions with Katherine on how this then translates into education, and particularly working with children and young people. So Arigatou International has been working for many years in a program on ethics education that is called Learning to Live Together, for children to learn to live with people of different cultures and beliefs. During the last 20 years, we have developed a pedagogy on how you can do this in the classroom with children, starting how children understand their own identity in relation with others, how they identify common values, shared understanding of their common humanity, how children understand injustices, violence around them, so similar to what was done with exercise here, how they understand the beliefs of others, and also how it leads to them to transform their communities, to create more peaceful communities, how they can work collectively, how they can challenge their prejudices and stereotypes. So the Learning to Live Together was not developed as concretely as a contribution to freedom of religion and belief alone, but it is a contribution in the sense that it provides a space for young people to challenge the stereotypes about the other, to get to know the other, to empathize with the other, and to understand that this other who is different to them has rights, and those rights need to be respected, and that even if the other is different, they can still work together and transform their communities. So we have information about the book, but we have been discussing with Katherine how we can join forces and develop more programs together with children.
Thank you so much. So a quick last comment from the panel, and then Rafael will say thank you for today, ending it all.
Obrigado a todas e todos. Eu creio que nós conseguimos alcançar um objetivo não previsto, que é causar impacto. E causar impacto para que, como seguir os desafios. Para o desafio em português, eu gostaria de convidar a Faculdade UNIDA que possa compartilhar o que já tem em português do material. Vocês trabalharam, eu acredito que tiveram esse esforço, né? Então, isso a gente poderia trabalhar mais futuramente aqui em português. Muito obrigado a todas e todos. Eu não sei se alguém de vocês saiu tão motivado que possa dar seguimentos. Estamos aguardando suas sugestões, contribuições. Do ponto de vista desse encontro, do IF20, algumas recomendações para governo e para líderes comunitários deverão ser anotadas para que tenhamos, ao final do encontro, algumas recomendações que cheguem ao G20. Muito obrigado a todos, obrigado, Filip.
And that was it. Thank you.